Cervantes.
And I'm Eliana Davila, reporting live from Mesquite, Texas.
Now let's go ahead and dive into local news. Texas is set to allow college students to carry concealed handguns on campus. Yes, the Texas Senate Bill 11 is set to pass to a final vote on Thursday evening that would allow 21-year-olds to be permitted to carry a concealed handgun on campus. Now, Texas legislature has already tried to pass 3 similar bills since as of 2009, but now if the bill is signed by Texas Republican Governor Greg Abbott, then it would allow college students to carry concealed handguns on college campuses. 7 states have already allowed college students to be able to carry concealed handguns on their campuses.
Now, what about private colleges and universities?
Yes, private colleges will still be able to prohibit the use of concealed handguns on campus. And although private colleges will be able to do this, many public universities still disagree with this law, such as the University of Texas System Chancellor William McRaven, who was a former Navy admiral, says that there is a great concern that the presence of handguns, even limited to licensed individuals of ages 21 or older, will lead to an increase in both accidental shootings and inflicted wounds. Now, handgun licenses have been a big deal around this time of the year.
Well, yeah, Adrian, as you say that, Senate Republicans have passed an open carry bill for handguns in Texas. Just March 16th, a few days ago, a bill was passed in Austin to where licensed Texans would be able to openly carry handguns on a shoulder belt or holster.
Kind of like the Old West?
Exactly like the Old West. In this case, they would even be able to carry long guns such as rifles. Now, the state of Texas has about 826,000 citizens carrying a concealed handgun license, and that's only 3% of the population, but that's enough to make an impact. Now, one of the senators, State Representative Craig Estes, he was asked, what if something goes wrong, which is a question that does arise, and his reply was simply, we'll deal with it. Now, Oklahoma has passed this bill, and the open carry law has already passed over there, and there has been issues. And if something were to happen, we would deal with it only in Texas. There's nothing to be done about it in Oklahoma just yet.
So now let's go to Rossnei.
Hi, my name is Rossnei. I will be talking about the Mike Brown shooting. Mike Brown was shot on August 9, 2014. He was fatally shot by Officer Darren Wilson, who has been pleaded not guilty. There have been riots everywhere all over Ferguson ever since, from burning buildings, flipping cars, and shooting. They have now said that Mike Brown's weight was his weapon against Officer Darren Wilson. They have now put higher people in to investigate the justice of African Americans in Ferguson. They have found evidence of how African Americans have been overly accused of different things. Back to y'all.
Thank you for that, Rossnei. Now let's address how this week 47 Republican senators may have just broken the law in plain sight. In Washington, students and legal scholars are raising questions whether Senator Tom Cotton and the 46 state Republicans violated the Logan Act when they penned a letter to Iran's leader on Monday, undercutting President Barack Obama's efforts to negotiate a nuclear agreement with those same Iranian leaders. The law, passed in 1799, forbids any citizen from interfering or influencing disputes or controversies involving the U.S. or any foreign government. But a look at the law's track record isn't really shudder-inducing. 216 years on the books have resulted in just 1 indictment and 0 prosecutions.
So the Logan Act is still in place?
Well, it is in place, but it seems to have been long forgotten. It seems to pop up only any time a member of Congress and prominent private citizens get involved on the world stage, and they seem to be perceived as influencing foreign policy or managing U.S. relationships with foreign leaders.
Thanks, Ellie. Now, the Cop Watch bill proposed by a Dallas lawmaker in 2015. Dallas State Representative Eric Johnson filed the bill and says it will increase police transparency and that it's needed to provide a perfect picture of police at work and the rights of Texans. It'll be known as House Bill 1035 which would guarantee your right to film police in public as long as you don't interfere. And the bill says police cannot seize your smartphone or other recording device.
Now, if I did want to film a police, what would be a safe distance?
They're asking around a 25-foot radius around the police officer. Now, retired federal judge and former police officer Joe Kendall says if the bill becomes law, it would come with what he calls unintended consequences. He said, if we legislatively encourage some person getting up in an officer's business, then I just think it's dangerous for all involved. He also said what he wonders what he calls unintended consequences with cop watchers, especially with cell phones. That's what Johnson said. But he also said, while that safe distance may be an issue, he said the camera does not lie. Johnson also stated that either way, neither distance, close or far, will affect the fact that the law says you cannot confiscate and delete the footage without the person's consent.
Great. Okay, so moving on to the next story, IRS completed the Dirty Dozen tax scam list for 2015. In Washington, the Internal Revenue Service wrapped up the 2015 Dirty Dozen list of tax scams today with a warning to taxpayers about aggressive telephone scams continuing coast to coast during the early weeks of this year's filing season.
So what would be a consequence, or what have they been stating?
Well, some things that we should be careful for are phone scams, phishing, identity theft, return prepayer fraud, offshore tax avoidance, inflated refund claims, fake charities, hiding income tax with fake documents, abuse of tax shelters, falsifying income to claim credits, excessive claims for fuel tax credits, and frivolous tax arguments. These are all things that the public should be aware of and should be cautioned with because the IRS won't contact you in such ways.
Thanks for watching Sky News. I'm Adrian Cervantes.
And I'm Eliana Davila, and you have a good night.